Hey everybody, it's Fox here, and today I would like to talk about my Ruger Mark IV 22-45 Tactical. I was trying to think of maybe another name I could call it. Maybe I missed one. I don't know. Let me know if I did. But anyways, this is the Ruger Mark IV in a Tactical 45 handle model. And yeah, going to give you guys my overall thoughts and opinions and how I think it performs. But before we get into that, I'd kind of like to talk about my history with this Mark IV Tactical. And it kind of goes back to the height of when COVID was happening. We were kind of in that middle phase of lockdown, and I was not getting to shoot near as much. Ammo was at pretty much an all-time high, if you could even find it. And I had quite a bit of 22 ammunition, set back just from years of always having 22 long rifles and shooting, but I did not have a 22 pistol. So I was wanting to get back to the range, get more familiar with doing some drills and stuff. So I knew I wanted a 22 that would be dependable and somewhat not feel like a toy. You know, whenever you start looking into some of these 22s, they just feel a little chintzy. They don't have much metal on them. I don't know, there's something about them that turns me away. Anyways, I went to my local gun shop, and sure enough, they had this in the counter, behind the counter, and looked at it, picked it up, and immediately was like, man, this is perfect. This feels good, and it really, really looks good. So I've had this gun right at maybe a year and a half, and I have put thousands of rounds through this. This is something that I pick up, and I'm fortunate enough to have a range pretty much in my backyard. So this is so simple and inexpensive to pick up and practice with and put rounds through. So it's definitely a plus. And I'd also like to talk about its reliability. Very, very reliable. I've never had this gun jam or failure to feed or really any issues for that matter. The only recent issue I've had was with my red dot being dead, but as far as the actual pistol and the way it functions, everything has been extremely wonderful. We'll just go ahead and jump right into how the pistol functions and maybe a few things that I would change. Let's start with the back here, and we can call this the slide or the bolt. I guess until someone really corrects me and tells me what this is, I'm probably going to call it a bolt. I know it's a pistol, but it's kind of a bolt. Nonetheless, I would like to maybe extend this out to the extended bolt. It is a little small, and I do catch myself sometimes slipping off of it. It's nothing that changes, how the gun functions for me or anything, but I have seen some aftermarkets, even the little round hook you can actually put your finger in or your thumb and charge the pistol. So that's kind of cool. Kind of go right into this grips. Obviously, this is on a 45 kind of grip pattern. It doesn't have the 45 dovetail, which is perfectly fine by me. I'm really and truly not a huge fan of the 45. I just never really appeased to me, although it's very comfortable. And that kind of goes into this gun. It feels extremely good to hold. It doesn't feel like a toy, quote unquote. It actually feels like you have maybe even a 9mm or nonetheless at least a heavy duty 22. So the grip I really like, and I'll probably keep it stock. I'm kind of a sucker to upgrades and changing things out on my pistols and rifles, but something about just these factory Ruger 45 grips I really like. They're kind of a rubberized, kind of squishy, but not. So even with me, I usually wear gloves to shoot in. I don't slide off of it, but also if my hands are sweaty or wet, you've got plenty of grip on there. So until I find something that I just have to have or put on there that maybe feels better, I'm probably not going to change that out. So kind of getting away from the grip, we can go into the trigger. The trigger on this pistol, in my opinion, is really good. I don't really see much of a reason to upgrade that. It's not very squishy. It doesn't have much of a wall on it. And I always kind of go back to this, but it feels rewarding to shoot. there's a lot of pistols and a lot of firearms out there that just aren't that fun to shoot right out of the box. You got to do a few upgrades to them. And that kind of goes right into the barrel here. I do like this pick rail. I think it was something that if you were worried about the weight of this pistol, it would be a pretty easy change out, because it does have an Allen wrench spot there where all you got to do is unscrew it and you can get rid of that little booger. But I'm going to keep it on there because since this is so handy and it doesn't blow your eardrums out, it's kind of a good little varmint pistol. So I do have a lot that I attach to it quite often. It kind of bounces from pistol to pistol. We can go to the end of the barrel here, which it is threaded, so you could put a suppressor on there or a muzzle brake. I don't know why you would for a 22, but hey, you do you. And of course, we'll get into the top rail here. You've got plenty of real estate for really whatever size red dot you would want to put on there. You could go with a kind of a finer, small red dot that I've got on here, or you could go for more of the Holosun or primary arm circular style, and you've got plenty of room on there. I will go into the factory irons. The factory iron sights are very well right out of the box. I actually ran it for quite some time, probably a few thousand rounds, and I'm kind of a sucker for red dots, so I always have a few laying around. And I have recently put on the Venom 3 MOA. Nothing really wrong with this red dot. It's probably not what's going to live on here, but this is a relatively inexpensive 22 pistol, so I'm not going to put a $500–600 red dot on there. Hey, I may, but right now I just wanted to kind of start with a budget one, and it seems to work fine as long as you turn it off. I have went through a couple of batteries because I'm a little used to the Holosuns and some EOTechs and even the SIGs, but ran a few batteries down on it. Well, that kind of brings us right back around to the rear of this pistol, and I got to say one of my most favorite features about this is 22 is a dirty round. It's a round that puts off a lot of grit, a lot of grime, and if you're familiar with 22s and you've shot them as much as I have, you know that they require a little bit more cleaning than your average pistol or long rifle. So I do clean this regular, and probably every 200 or 300 rounds, but it breaks down so easy. It's literally just the push of the button. You can remove this and the whole barrel, everything. You can actually clean it from back to front. So it really works. Overall impressions with its reliability are excellent. The way it feels in my hand is excellent. The trigger is great. I love the real estate and I love the pick rails. Overall, I just really like this tactical look. I gotta say, the mag release is extremely impressive as well. It almost feels like it's spring loaded. You can see how fast that kind of jumps right out of there, but I mean, it really shoots that magazine out. So that is another thing I've got to really brag on, which is pretty cool because, you know, there's some pistols you really got to wiggle and squeeze and kind of fight out of that. So that's another plus. And the, give me one second. The actual bolt release or the slide release is extremely smooth too. So whenever you're going to throw a mag and get it in there, it is very easy to get that to go forward. There's not much of a fight about it. It's easy to get to. Now, if you're left-handed, you may feel otherwise because as far as I know, there's not much you can do with this pistol left-handed. You may be able to change the mag release to ambidextrous, but I know as far as the slide release or bolt release, you're probably not going to be able to do much about that. Got the Ruger Mark IV Tactical. First mag will be Federal FMJs. See how she runs. full-tailed open, really smooth. Second mag will be the Winchester hollow points, 330 box count, if that matters. See how it performs. Ring-a-ding-ding.
And hollow points, not bad for a little 22.
So maybe for something that I don't necessarily care for in this pistol is the magazine safety. If you do not have a mag in the pistol, you cannot fire. You actually have to insert the magazine and then you can fire. It's not a deal breaker by any means. However, I'm just kind of not used to that. Even though I've messed with this gun for a really long time, I know it's there, I know it's going to happen, but I still catch myself when I'm at the range, checking the gun, clearing it, and trying to fire it, and nothing happens. Which, hey, not a big deal at all. That's just something that is a little different. Ruger Mark IV, rapid fire with the mag exchange. Ran nice and smooth. Overall, I really do not have any complaints with this firearm. Its reliability, its comfort, its ease of shoot, and overall just fun to shoot, and it's inexpensive. So I can't harp on it at all. It's a gun that I'm glad I have in my collection and I will forever keep in my collection. I've actually looked into getting the light version, but this kind of goes back to why I purchased this particular one, is its weight and the fact that it still feels like you are working and training with a maybe a 9mm, not quite a 45, but nonetheless not a light gun. But as far as I can tell on the light version, it just has the barrel cutouts and I think one less pick rail down here. So if that was something you're really worried about and wanted to shed off a little bit of weight, you can always remove these pick rails. But nonetheless, I do look forward to putting a suppressor on this gun. 22 suppress is just even that much more fun to shoot. So as soon as the can gets out of the gel cell, we will be putting that on this firearm and probably do another review, maybe a few uploads on it with the can on there. But yeah, I think this is a gun that I will continue to shoot probably weekly, monthly, and like I said, it's cool to use for varmints. It's cool to have a great range toy, but also I think another important factor of this pistol is if you have, you know, your son, your daughter, your niece, nephew, little brother, whatever, I think this will be a wonderful firearm to train them on. Teach them gun safety. It's easy to work and it's not very intimidating. And if you guys are anything like I was growing up, we all had Ruger 1022s. I know I grew up pretty much on a farm. All my friends had farms. We all hunted, and it was pretty much a staple. If you were going on a four-wheeler ride, if you were going out of the house, whatever, if you were going to explore, you always had a 1022 or a 22 of some sort because it was just pretty reliable, easy to use, and overall just a joy to shoot. So yeah, if you guys have any comments or own this firearm and have an experience with it, I would love to hear your story, your overall opinions on it as well, and maybe some things that you guys have changed out. I'm always curious to know what other people change on their pistols or on their weapons, because that's kind of the era that I kind of got into, you know, really collecting firearms, the 2007, 2008, kind of, I guess you could call it the Call of Duty hype. And it was never just satisfying for me to leave my pistols or weapons just basically stock. Had to add pick rails, had to have different grips, and all of that stuff. And I think that's what really draws me to this, is because it kind of reminds me of, I'm not going to say my childhood, but when I really got into collecting more tactical guns and really getting into changing parts out. So yeah, and by the way, I'm not bashing the Mark III or II or, you know, the line of Ruger at all. This just really appeals to me. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys listening to me ramble on. If you guys like this content or don't like this content, please do let me know if there's any other particular guns you would like for me to review. As always, like, subscribe, and if you can throw anything at the Patreon. It does help the channel grow, and I really appreciate it. This is Fox, and I'll catch you next time.